My name is Eva. I'm a TRA over in the tech lab. I'm also a sophomore undergrad, so I'll probably all meet. This is fine though. But yeah, so we are going to be learning just basic text adventure building with Python. But before we can get into that, we kind of have to do a little bit of basic Python stuff. So, who has programming language experience at all? You guys, a little bit there. It's okay. And then I'm assuming you don't. Okay. Cool. Well, for this workshop, the link that I gave you earlier is like starter code stuff, so you won't be coding from scratch. I'll have some reference, which is great. But before we get into that, I just want to make sure you understand sort of the basics, which is what do you really need to do when you're like trying to code? You need to store data and manipulate it. So storing data we see as integers, so whole numbers, doubles, which are just like 3.5, so not a whole number, and strings are just your average words, and booleans are true, false things. And we'll get to lists in a second, but before we go into there, head over to your shell, which is our friend here. And I just want to show you what Python does to grab these things. So if we wanted to store an integer, here, let me see if I can make this. I'll make this bigger. That didn't work. How small is this for you guys? Pretty terrible. Okay.
I can see it, and I got the oldest guys here.
If I can just make it a little bit bigger.
Maybe in preferences.
Probably. Preferences, font size. Here we go. Is that any better?
Right, that's fine.
Oops, yeah. Ooh. Heck yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're starting with ints. So an int would be like 5. So x equals 5. Now we've told the computer that there's a space in memory that we've named x, and it is holding the value 5. So if we ask the computer what's an x, it'll give you 5. So that's an integer. We'll be using a lot of that in our text adventure, so I just want to go over the basics. We're not using doubles in our text adventure, but if you wanted to use one, it's the same thing. You can just change them as you go. Strings. So if you wanted to save your name, it will look like that. So that's how you save a string. And it gives you back what you saved. And booleans we'll get into later. So just wanted to show you that the computer will take what you give it and what those different types of variables are. And now we're going to go over to our link. So pull up the lists and loops. It's a pretty simple little piece in here. You can just copy it from there and then head back over to your shell. Go to File, New File, and you just paste it in. Did I leave anyone behind there? All right, just look up here once you've got that in a new file. And if you have any trouble, let me know. Okay, so what we're looking at here is, so we can store simple things like x equals 5, but what if we want to store like multiple things? And that's when we come into lists. So lists, I've made a friend list, Bob, Harry, and Abby. And so that's sort of a collection of data that you're grouping together so that you can call upon them, and they all have this thing in common, friend list. So yeah. Now, if we wanted to, as a user, see or go through each thing in our list, we can use for or while loops to go through those. It'll make more sense when we run it. And then also, if we want to see specific parts of our list, we can reference them by their index. So as you can see up there in our friend list, there's 3 elements in there. The index of Bob is 0, and then Harry is 1, and Abby is 2. So the index is just sort of its location in the list, and why it starts at 0, it's sort of annoying, but just kind of how it is. So 0 to 2, the length would be 3, but yeah. So let's run this. You can go up to run, and then run module, and then save it. You can just save it as anything. I'm just going to do lists. And notice how in our file here, we said def main. So this is just like something that when we're in the shell, we can call to that file by saying def main. So by typing in main, you get, and we'll just follow along with our in here. Yeah, fun stuff. So we have our friend list, Bob, Harry, and Abby. From the for loop, we have for each member of friend list printed. So that's kind of what we're doing there. And you can see it on the left, Bob, Harry, and Abby are printed in the shell. And then for our while loop here, we have, so we're setting just some random I to 1. And that's sort of keeping track of our placement within our while loop. So we're starting at 1, and then while 1 or while I is less than 6, we're printing whatever I is. And then every time we go through this while loop, we're adding 1 to I. So on the left, you can see that it starts at 1, and then you see 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the next go through of that while loop, when I is 5, I plus 1 is 6, and that breaks you out of that while loop. So that's sort of like different ways that you can sort of use those for and while loops. It's really primarily used to like keep track of where you are in a place, and like just how we're keeping track of where we are in friend list. And then at the bottom here, you see we're like printing specific elements from that list. So the element at index 0 is Bob. We see it printed on the left here. And same thing with the index of 1, which is Harry. And that's right there. So that's just sort of a reference for what these will see. We'll see these more in our sample story code. What's it?
What does the def stand for?
So def, it's like defining.
Okay.
So main is technically a method. So methods, so you know how when we were in the shell before, I was doing x equals 5, like saying x and then it would give me 5 back. Like if I have something like, I want to be able to do this like every time without having to, or it's like a multi-step thing. Like we have multiple steps here, and every time I call main, I want this printed out.
So it's just like a function.
Yeah, so it's a function. Yeah, that's how you define functions in Python.
Okay.
We'll see more of those. It'll make more sense. It has to be have a purpose other than like show an example. But then every time I want to show an example, I go in here, type main, and it would all come out instead of having to write that all in here, which would just be very messy and it's just more typing than you need to do. So solid. So now we're going to hop over to, first I'm going to clear this. I guess that didn't do what I wanted. Nonetheless. Okay, so back over to GitHub. We're going to go back to our list of things, and now we're going to look at user interaction. So user interaction is what makes programs fun. Like I'm sure you can imagine if we wanted, like it's no fun just to have a computer like tell you like stuff. You want to be able to interact with it, and so this example here is sort of an example of that. So highlight that, go back into idle, and make a new file. Paste it in there. So printing and input are Python's way of talking to the user. So with printing, you can have things like the computer will say something that you said. So like print hello world. You run this in the shell and you get hello world printed out. But maybe you want to take in user input. So like most commonly if you're playing a game, it's going to ask for your name. This would be something like that. And so your input is actually, let me run it. It makes more sense to me. So does everyone have this on their screen? Great. Go up to run the module. So when we run it in our shell, we get the hello world, so that prints it out. And now we see that it's asked us a question, what is your name? And it's waiting for us to type something in. So this is where the computer can receive direct input from the user. So if you want, you can just type in your name. And now it says hello Eva, which is a great example of saving a string. So I gave it Eva, it saves it to name in this second line up here. So this is where it's asking us, okay, give me your input. We enter something in, it saves it to name, and then now we can use name wherever we want.
So you didn't have to tell it to print what is your name, it just asked that because it wanted to find a variable?
Yeah, anything that Python does, other languages wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
The input function is a very streamlined way of being like, hey, I know I want to ask you a question. And it's like, okay, so if we just put input without anything in it, it would just, like the user wouldn't know what to type in. So logically, it decided like, okay, the people that developed Python were like, we're gonna make it so that automatically you have a question that like you can type in there. And it sort of squishes those two steps together. So, yep, input, ask for that user input, you get it, and assign it to name. So those are sort of the basic things that are the basics of Java or of Python. If I ever say Java, you know I mean Python, just PSA. But those are the things we're going to see in our base starter code. And there are a few other things that we'll see that I'll get into, but it's not worth like typing out here. But yeah, so now we can hop back over to GitHub. And now we're getting into the big stuff. Do not, oh, that was a mistake. All right. I'm gonna make a new file and paste that in. So as you can see, this is a lot more complicated than, or it looks a lot more complicated than what we were dealing with before, but it's all just small pieces that make the whole. The great thing about, well, the best and worst thing about computers is that they're very dumb, which they need to be told everything, like step by step, like they can't infer anything, but it also means that all of your steps are simple, like bite-sized pieces that come together to make a whole file. So this is sort of what we're looking at. This sort of the things that I want to go over before we jump into this are these two things here. So when we import things, this means that we're like taking things that people have already built that, like, so time. Like, we don't need to code we don't need to tell the computer what time is. Like, how do you even go about doing that? Like, someone's done that work for us. And so we can import time, and now our computer has this concept of seconds, which is when you see over here, time.sleep1. So that means that we're saying, hey, someone built time, And we're going to use this method that they built into this whole concept called sleep, which basically just means wait. And then in the parentheses there, 1 second. So that's sort of what I just wanted to point out what that was before we got into it, since it's a little weird. But yeah, so time is time, and sleeping is just waiting. So this comes into play when we're going through our adventure. We don't want it all just to print at once. Like we want to have like a sort of flow to the story, like, and you'll see it when we run this. But like you don't want it to just give you a huge page of text. We're gonna like sort of tiptoe through the different story elements. So other thing is random. So again, random in computers isn't actually random. It's just a very complicated math problem that like gives us what is close enough to random that, so we use that. So random, also sort of self-explanatory. We're using random in this to choose. So like when we're going along, we're getting like different villains, and I don't want it to be like the first villain is always like the bear. And so that's why we're using random, to kind of like mix it up so each time you play you're getting a different experience. But yeah. So now let me just give you an overview sort of what this is. So I've just made it really simple. Like I fully expect that you guys will like rewrite this however you want. But I didn't want to type that much. So this person, we give them our name, and they're like, okay, you're going in the forest and there's going to be bad things, and they're like, you got it. And so they go in and they encounter a bear, a dragon, and a mean wizard. So, and depending on how you react, so you're introduced to them, there's danger, and you have 2 choices on how to react to the situation, which you type in using that input thing that we saw before. So, depending on how you answer, you either die or you move on to the next one. We do have lives in this one, so it's not just one and done. But like right now, you have only 1, so you are 1 and done right now. But you can change it to like 5, which we will do when we're going through it. But yeah, so let's take a look at this. First off, let's run it. So go up to run module like we've been doing. And this is going to look pretty ugly on my screen probably, but we'll see how this works out. Okay. Okay. So welcome to the forest. It's full of terrible things and beautiful treasures for whatever reason. Oh, by the way, is everyone here? Okay, cool.
I like how she looks at me every time.
Well, because you were still looking at your screen, so you didn't want to move away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so full of terrible things. You're going in the forest. We don't know why you're doing that, but you are. So it asks for your name. Type it in. And this is that. So notice how it's like having those pauses. That's what that sleep is. So instead of being just like giant wall of text, we're getting like a little bit of a stepping through there. So it says, greetings, currently have 1 life. Navigate your way through the forest and try not to die. So I have it right now so that when we're encountering a villain, or I guess it would be an obstacle, I have it so that it tells us what it is. That's just when I was testing it out. I wanted you guys to know that if you saw the list before, there's a list called obstacle list, and it's bear, dragon, and mean wizard. So this is the current obstacle. And then we get into the story a bit. You come across, another person setting up camp. You start to call out in greeting, but they whip around with a wand in hand and a very hostile look on their face. You can try to reason, or you can try to attack before they can get a spell out. So which will you choose, reason or attack? Spoiler, it's reason. I know that may not be you may not agree with that, but you can change it to fit whatever your opinion is. So you type in reason, and this is where you need to update the it'll sleep. So you type in a reason, you put your hands up, the wizard relaxes, you talk it out, and they let you go. Boring, you can mix it up if you want. And now we're seeing our list here. So we've defeated one of the obstacles, which means that there's no reason for us to face the mean wizard again, like we're friends now. So your obstacle list lowers by 1, you take that out, and now it's just the bear and the dragon. These are the only other obstacles in the forest, and if you get through these, then you're out of the forest and you're good. So now we're encountering the dragon, and you enter a small clearing, and suddenly hair flapping above you, another typing. Looking up, you see a dragon swooping down on you. You can run back into the trees or use your shield as a pitiful hiding spot. So, another spoiler, it is shield. Because, yeah, it breathes fire, and if you just ran, it would burn down the forest. But, yeah, so you put the shield up, and it blocks the fire coming down. And I put in a psychology joke, which is object permanence. Do you guys know what object permanence is? It's like a baby thing, where like if you're playing with a ball and then like the baby drops the ball and it goes on the couch, and then the baby cries because the ball doesn't exist anymore. They don't understand that the ball could still like exist out of sight. So that's sort of what we're bringing in with the dragon. Thinks it's disappeared, so he flies away, and you're good. So you're going along again. We face the dragon. So now we just have the bear left, and you're facing the bear now. Make your way through the trees, and you're wrestling, stalling backwards. A form emerges, and it's a massive black bear. So why it's climb or why the right answer here would be to scare the bears. Apparently, according to like, black attack and then brown get down, white like you're dead. You guys know that one? I don't know if that's a thing. So like if you see a grizzly bear, which are brown, like they're very aggressive. So if you try and like scare them, they're just gonna kill you. So like you just like get on the ground and like pretend that you're dead. And for black bears, they're like easily scared. So black attack, brown get down, and then white being polar bear, like you're just gonna die. So so that's a little PSA tip there, making sure y'all are safe in the woods. But yeah, so it is a black bear, so we're going to scare the bear, and it runs off. So yeah, I also put in that you have the spirit animal of Chihuahua, but the stomping and yelling miraculously does the trick. Also have typos in this, but y'all, it's just a rough draft. So yeah, so now we see we have faced all our obstacles. This is our, well, I'll explain this later, but this is how many lives we had. We started with 1, we're ending with 1 because we haven't been mauled by any bears or dragons, and now we break through the tree line. We've successfully passed through the forest. Congratulations, and whatever you put in as your name. So this is what it looks like. Obviously, not the most polished thing ever. It's up to you sort of how you want to break it up and stuff, but this is just sort of our bare bones text adventure business. And now let's dive into what is the code behind this. Where are we? There we go. Okay. So when we were talking about while loops before, we wanted to keep track of sort of like actions and stuff like that. So how we're using it in here is in this block right here. This is sort of deciding whether or not we're like done with the game or not. So the length of our list, which is up there, bear, dragon, wizard. So the length is 3, because we have 3 elements. So length of that, if that is above 0, and we don't have 0 lives, then we're still in the game. So remember how every time we face an obstacle, we took that obstacle out of our list because we don't need to face it anymore. We've already seen the bear, so it doesn't need to be in our obstacle list anymore. That's what we're keeping track of here. So if we still have obstacles to face, meaning if it's still greater than 0, then we're still playing the game. And if we have lives, then we're definitely not dead. So if you die, then you're not going to be playing the game anymore. So, and this is where random comes in. So I used to have obstacle list being villain list. So which vil is a bit obsolete now. It'd be like which obstacle. So that is it's holding a number. So we're getting a random number between 0 and 2. Because we have indexes 0, 1, and 2 in our list. And so we want to choose a villain or an obstacle that's either at index 1, 2, or 1, 0, 1, or 2. So we don't want the number to exceed the length of, like we don't want it to be 3, because of course we don't have anything in index 3. It only goes up to 2. So that's why we have this negative proof here. And so yeah, random number between those guys. And that gives us our villain. And then for each of our villains, so if we have bear, then we're going to print bear, which we saw was telling us which one we're facing. And now we update lives with bear lives. So this is sort of where the methods come in. So main is a method, but inside of main, we don't want to have to write out like the same thing every time. Let me scroll down to there. So this is bear right here. So let me wait. Okay. Hello, Libby. I don't know if they can hear us actually, but I hope they can. Okay. So right. So this is our bear situation. So whenever we face the bear, this is what runs. So when you face the bear, you need to know, one, how many lives do you have? So you're going into this situation, like, what's your information? So that's why we have at the top there, defining the bear method, we give it lives in parentheses. So we're sending in what we have for lives, which is currently 1. And then this is our story. The print with the empty parentheses is just like spaces, like lines between like each of those guys. We have our SLIS, and now we see that input again, which is what we saw before, and that's the right answer. And let me just hop back over here so I can actually highlight things.
Is there a way to do like a line break without print, or do you just have to do like an extra print?
I'm sure that there is. Let me see, actually. Well, I'm pretty sure that, because I know that there's, in Java at least, if you wanted to do a line break, it would be like \n, which is just new line, I guess, in like shorthand.
That's in Python too.
In Python. Okay, great. Well then, that would clean this up significantly. Solid tips, guys. We're learning together. But yeah, so if you wanted to do that, I think it's just. Oh, what did I do? It might be that. Or,
No, you put it.
Is it inside
you
of
put
the
it inside
quotes?
the parentheses or the quotes.
Yeah, so I guess it would look like that. I don't know if that gives you the whole. Like, I don't know if you get the space between. I just know that it would take you to the next line.
Gotcha.
Nonetheless, so let me check on our. Okay. Okay. So you're in bear. You're going through the story, and now we get down to here. This is the end of the observable stuff to our player. They've answered, and now it's time for us to do the work behind the scenes. So that's starting here. We know the right answer is scare for the black bear. So if the guess being their input that they put in up here, if that is equal to answer, the double equal is because like when we're saying x is equal to 5, that's setting x equal to 5. If we said guess equal to answer, then we would just be making guess answer and overriding whatever they put in as an input. So that's why that double equal sign is important. So if their answer is the same, or if their guess is the same as the right answer, we don't change their lives because they didn't get killed. We let them know, and like give them some feedback in the story, and then we hop down, and then we go back out of bear, or back in here. I'll follow it back up, and that would be the end of this. Because if the guess is the same as the answer, then we're doing this bit in here. And since it was, we don't need to go into the else, because the else is just there in case the answer and guess aren't the same. And then we return lives, but since we don't have any change, yeah.
Does it matter like capitalization, or does it?
Yeah, so are you talking about like
Yeah,
if
like
we
if
capitalize
somebody
the
enters
answer?
scare with a capital S.
Yes, okay, so this is why I was gonna go over this a little bit later, but that's really
Sorry.
relevant. No, you're totally fine. So as it is right now, this is like, it doesn't do a lot of error checking. So if you type in scare with a lowercase and scare with a capital, it's not going to be the same guess. So right now we have the right answer being scare with a lowercase. You could also have like, it's just, you have to have a way to check if it's this, like if it's scare with a capital, if it's scare with a lowercase, if it's scare maybe with like an extra space at the end.
Could you do that with a Boolean in the answer? Can you have multiple values for the answer or not? So could you do scare or like scare with a capital?
I think that you would have to.
It'd be easier if you did like guess dot lower so that your guess is automatically lowercase.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So there are built-in methods.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it automatically changes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I forget that's a thing, and then that is just whoever made that. They deserve some props for that. So yeah, that's sort of just the short answer to that. So just.
What's that? Lower?
Lower,
So
it
guess dot lower.
just converts everything to lowercase.
Yeah. So yeah, something that you could add in there just to catch those things, but just if it's simple right now, I'll just leave it as it is. But definitely something to explore. But yeah, so if we get the right answer, returns lives here at the bottom, and now we're done with the bear method, and we can go right back up to where it was called, which is right here. So at the end of the bear method, it returned lives. So there wasn't a change, so lives here wouldn't change. So we're still at 1. And now this is where we're taking off that villain that we just faced, or the obstacle. So obstacle is, we're popping off the villain that we got from our random generator here. And then you saw that like we would print the obstacle list, and then you'd see there was one less. So this is all, like this and this are just checking to make sure that we're on the same page and that things are doing what we want them to do. But yeah, so the else is in here. So say you put in the wrong answer, you subtract your lives by 1, you give them some more story to like chew on, and then now you're going to death report. So they've lost a lot. You can name these whatever you want. It's just what I was doing. So death report is up here. So we're passing in lives here. We're telling them if they died. If they're out of lives, then we give them the bad ending, which is that you died and your journey ends. You're sorry, like you're done. But if they still have some lives left, then we go into the else and we let them revive themselves. And this is something that I want to point out. So when you're printing strings. So if you said x equals 5 and you typed in print and then in parentheses x, it would get mad at you because 5. Well, actually, Python might be easygoing on this, but probably I don't think so. But yeah, so basically, if you have an integer or anything that you want to print that isn't a string already, you turn it into a string with this handy little thing here, which is like how you stringify any variable. So str standing for string, and then pass in lives. So now we know that whatever our number is, right now it's 1, it would say you have 1, and then, oh god, that was terrible. Anyways, 1 life left. Now I'll turn it on. But yeah, so that's sort of the basics of what this all is. But so we go back up here, we go through all of our obstacles, and then this is just checking to see how many lives we have at the end. If we had the bad ending, which is the bad, okay, I always said epilogue. That's wrong, right? Because I think that's wrong.
That's wrong.
Epilogue
Right.
comes after.
It's at the end.
Okay, because I definitely thought I was pronouncing that wrong. This is like a permanent thing. You know when you read a lot of books, but you don't say the
Yeah.
words that you learn out loud, and this
Yeah.
is like a perpetual thing where you're
Yeah.
just like, I wonder if I'm pronouncing that right. So I wanted to check with you guys before I embarrass myself.
Oh, that's fine.
But yeah, so if you go into the bad ending, you're getting the bad ending. So that's sort of something that we're checking in at the end here. So if you have the bad ending, or if you don't have the bad ending, then you're getting the good ending with your name, which is right down here. You break through the tree line and you successfully pass through the forest with the congratulations message. So these are comments, by the way. Y'all did not know that. That's important to mention. So comments are a great way to help people understand what you're writing. So like this is what establishes the gameplay. Plot down here. All the obstacles and stuff. Yeah, what's up?
Did you turn these colors for our sake, or did this Python automatically do that? Because I noticed, well, the notes are in red. That's really cool. That helps.
Yeah. This is actually something that you can change.
So you had to do that.
Well, no, this is the like.
It's default.
Yeah, this is the default like coloring. Because honestly, I mean, look back in GitHub. That is very ugly. I realize this has been here the whole time. This is like very hard to read. I mean, we do have our tabs, but no brackets, so like whatever. But like without the coloring, it just, one, it's not as fun. Two, I think that it's easier to read, and the red really stands out, which I think really helps.
So
But
you changed it though.
I didn't change it from the default now, but you can. I know you can change it in other like.
What do you mean it's the default? Because it's like when you went to GitHub, it wasn't in color, and then when you pasted it in the
Oh,
shell,
Of course.
how did that turn color?
So idle is just one thing that can like compile code.
Oh,
so
okay.
we're writing code and we're compiling it. And I know if you have a Mac, they have Xcode, which has like a whole different like. Oh, actually, great there. This is from Xcode. Like, this is not the default. I changed this because I thought it looked cool. But they like. If you open and start coding in Xcode, which is just a different application, then they're going to have like a dark background and stuff like that. It's just,
So this is idle. This is something idle is doing.
yep, this is just idles, a little bit of magic. It's how it likes to display things. But yes, so like in idle, there's code to say any comments, so anything following like, it's not a hash, what's the proper name for that? Or numbers, I'll just say numbers.
Yeah, it's a hashtag.
Okay, I didn't know if hashtag was like the new way of saying it. I was like, oh. But yeah, so anything following a hashtag will be red because it's a comment. And anything with these like method calls that come from, like built into Python, like print and input, those are gonna be purple. Text is all green, so anything between these quotes and stuff. So,
Any string.
yeah, perfect, yeah. So yeah, but like notice how the green stuff, because that's a variable for name, and the while and ifs are all orange, stuff like that. But yeah, so right now, I will admit that, so right now we have 1 life, and earlier today, I slightly broke this, so I want to show you guys what happens, and then maybe.
Is it when you lose, you still win?
Yep. it'll say that you lost, and it'll say that you win. And I'm like, hey bud, like let's not do that. And so when I change it in, where is it? It's in bad ending. It should be. Oh yeah, bad ending. So I change the bad ending is true, but then when it prints out here, it still says that it's false, so then we still get our happy ending. So, strange problem, broke it this morning, not sure what I did, so I've been working on that literally all, like, it was perfect, and I was like, oh, I wanted to, like, make it a little more, like, intuitive, and broke it. So this is the common thing that happens with programming. If you have any experience, you know it just happens. But if you stare at it and talk to a rubber duck, everything will be fine. Do you guys know that, the rubber duck thing?
No, tell us.
Okay, this is a fun little thing that programmers do. It's not all of them, but a lot of them. So they'll have like a rubber duck that they put on the corner of their desk or like something. Rubber duck is like the popular like pop culture thing. And whenever they have a problem, they'll explain the problem in depth to this duck. And in explaining it, they'll realize what the problem is. So that's, like, I mean, talking about the problem with a person helps too, but like sometimes there's not always a person, so you have the duck. So
I am all over the duck.
I know, I love the duck, and I see it like everywhere. I didn't even know it was a thing before like last year. And then like someone was like, do you have a duck? Like, have you tried talking to your duck? And I was like, what are you talking about? So, fun thing. So that's sort of our problem. We have 20, or not 20, we have 10 minutes left. So fun thing that if you want to take a crack at it, but when I figure it out, I'll send you guys a follow-up email, or I'll update the GitHub thing so that y'all don't have the wrong code. But as it is right now, it's almost there. So
What's your if that end equals true?
yeah, that's what I have a feeling that it might have something to do up here. That makes sense to me, and then it's after the game stops. So that's the problem of the day. But yeah, so if we die, so we got the dragon this time. So if we run, the dragon burns down you and the forest. You die. You're out of lives. Your journey ends. You still have those two other obstacles that you never got to. Your lives is 0, which is this guy. But then bad ending is still false. Strange. Spooky. So then you break out of trees again. So that's really
because they're in different functions.
Okay. When I was messing with it, I thought that might be it, but because then when I would try and put it in specific places, it would be like, hey, we don't know what bad ending is. And I'm like, but you do. But, so, common problem there, I guess.
Or in Ruby, you could just use an unless statement. Python doesn't have that.
It's this, honestly, the next programming language that comes out, I just wish it was like, I mean, they try and do it every time. They like take their favorite things from each thing, or like everything they would change, they make something new with it. And we're so close, just a little, something great. And then we won't have to learn any more programming languages. Said no one ever. But yeah, so what is there, let me know what's like something useful. Like, is there anything that you're seeing in here that just makes no sense to you and that you want to just kind of like dig into a little bit more? Or you just want to write your story? Because that's honestly like my like writing friends that are into computer science, like this was their favorite project because they got to stretch like their story building, like the part of them that like likes to write and do this too. So yeah. try, let me see if our friend here, Libby, wait, is that Libby? I don't know if that's actually, probably Libby. Hi, Libby. Okay.
Do you ever write strings with the modulus?
Do you have a what?
Do you ever write the strings with the modulus?
Do you ever write the strings with a modulus?
Yeah, instead of concatenating with like greetings, and you write the space and then the plus.
Wait, show me, or, okay, you can't show me, but like, modulus in my brain makes me think of like the percent sign. So
It's the percent sign. If you do it like string is the name, and then currently, etc. Then you'd make a modulus for that. Then it would do this. So you wouldn't have to like do the spaces.
yeah, because it's super
You could
annoying.
just,
So it's, okay,
it's just a way to make spacing easier,
yeah,
but it takes a lot more time to do.
I see. So you have to set, so the S,
So the
Dot.
modulus S is a string, and that's the period.
okay,
And then I think the modulus D is an integer, so like if you just have a number like lives, you can just put lives, like lives. And it stays as an
oh,
integer. Takes a little bit more time. but
yeah,
it just makes it
I
a
mean,
little bit easier.
yeah, of course. So modulus is definitely, because I remember there was a student, I learned how to do this last year, and there was, someone was talking about it, but we didn't get into it because my professor was like, if you want to do it, you can do it. And they were just like, okay, and then like went off on their own. But that would be a lifesaver, because writing this like at the time,
Yeah, it's very annoying.
it's really annoying. And like, why do I have to put all these like having to do all the pluses and quotation marks? It's mind-numbing. So good tip. I appreciate you. If you want to know more about what he's talking about, definitely type in. Let me see if I can just. Honestly, the solution to most things.
Stack Overflow.
Oh yeah, Stack Overflow, which is sometimes really frustrating because, like, it can make you feel really dumb because you're like, okay, I just want to know how to instantiate or like create a list in Java, and then it would be like, well, something like that. It would like have something, but like it'll get into like a really complicated explanation. You're like, I didn't need to feel this bad, but
And then there's a method to do it, so you didn't really
yeah,
even need.
like okay, great. So just modulus. I don't know if that's spelled right, but it'll correct me. I guess printing. Let's see what comes up. Ooh. Oh, it's a book. No, it's not. Okay. So, where do you say? Interesting. Okay. So,
As an example with the print, the str scores, modulus S.
where are you looking?
Like
Oh,
right
here.
where your mouse is.
Okay. So scores is equal to. Where do we set what that is? How does it know that it's rows?
You on the right, there's the modulus, and in the parentheses that
Oh,
says
right.
what
So you're setting it.
that says what it's equal to.
Okay.
It's usually not. It's supposed to be on the same
Yeah.
level. I don't know why it's like that.
That's weird looking. So fun thing, if you want to do that, it'll save you a lot of time. But for clarity's sake of just staring at it, at least it makes sense, even if it's really irritating. So that is what we have for you today. we are approaching 4, but you're welcome to stay, hang out, and ask me questions or work on it. I mean, I don't think we have anyone in this room for a while, so if at all, for the rest of today.
No, maybe not till 6.
Okay, so welcome to hang around and